The first time I noticed something was off, it was a quiet Tuesday night. The kind of night where the world feels soft around the edges, rain tapping against the windows, the kettle humming on the counter, and the faint glow of the TV casting shadows across our tiny living room. I was curled up on the couch with a book, half reading, half listening to the murmur of a cooking show Jake had left on. He wasn't there, though. He'd slipped away to the bedroom an hour earlier, muttering something about needing to check emails for work. I didn't think much of it then. Jake was always tethered to his phone, scrolling, tapping, disappearing into that little glowing screen like it was a portal to somewhere better than here. We'd been together for 3 years by then, 3 years of shared leases, late-night talks, and the kind of comfortable silences that come with knowing someone's rhythms. He was charming in the beginning, tall, with a crooked smile and a laugh that could pull you out of any bad day. I would fallen for him hard, the way you do when you're 25 and still believe love can fix anything. But that Tuesday night, something shifted. It wasn't a big moment, not yet, just a pebble rolling down a hill. The start of something I couldn't stop. He came back into the living room eventually, his face flushed, eyes darting away from mine. "Everything okay?" I asked, glancing up from my book. He nodded too quickly, mumbled something about a stressful client, and sank into the armchair across from me. His phone stayed clutched in his hand, screen dark but somehow still alive, like it was waiting for him. I didn't press. I never did back then. I told myself it was nothing, just Jake being Jake, a little distracted, a little distant. But the pebble kept rolling. It wasn't until a few months later that I found it. I wasn't snooping, not really. His laptop was open on the kitchen table, a half-finished spreadsheet from his accounting job glowing on the screen. I'd gone to close it to tidy up the mess of coffee mugs and crumpled napkins he'd left behind, when a tab caught my eye. It wasn't the spreadsheet, it was something else. A sight I didn't recognize, a string of words I didn't want to process. My stomach twisted, a cold, heavy knot forming as I clicked. Images flashed up, videos auto-playing in a grid of thumbnails. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands shaking, my breath caught somewhere between shock and nausea. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. He came home late, smelling faintly of beer from drinks with co-workers, and I just sat there, picking at the edges of a throw pillow while he rambled about his day. I kept waiting for him to notice the way I wouldn't look at him, the way my voice cracked when I said goodnight. But he didn't. He just kissed my forehead, grabbed his phone, and disappeared into the bedroom again. The next morning I asked. I had to. We were standing in the kitchen, him pouring cereal, me clutching a mug of tea that had gone cold. "Jake," I said, my voice quieter than I meant it to be, "what's on your laptop?" He froze, spoon halfway to his mouth, and for a second I thought he'd deny it. But then he laughed, a sharp, nervous sound that didn't reach his eyes. "What? You mean work stuff? It's boring, Liv. You wouldn't get it." "No," I said, stepping closer. "The other tab, the one you left open." His face changed then. The easy charm melted away, replaced by something harder, defensive. "It's not a big deal," he said, setting the bowl down with a clink. "Guys, look at that stuff. It's normal. You're overreacting." I wanted to believe him. I wanted it to be nothing, a dumb mistake, a one-time thing. But the way he wouldn't meet my eyes, the way his shoulders tensed like he was bracing for a fight, told me it wasn't. "How often?" I asked. He shrugged, turning to rinse his bowl in the sink. "I don't know, sometimes. It's not like I'm cheating on you, Liv. It's just stress relief." Stress relief. The words stuck to me like damp clothes, heavy and uncomfortable. I didn't say anything else. I just nodded, sipped my cold tea, and let the silence stretch between us. But inside something cracked, a thin, fragile piece of trust I hadn't realized was holding me together. It wasn't a one-time thing. I started noticing the patterns after that. The late nights, working in the bedroom, the way he'd angle his phone away from me when he scrolled, the excuses that didn't quite add up. I didn't want to be the paranoid girlfriend, the one who checks browser histories or demands passwords, but the doubt gnawed at me, a quiet, persistent ache that wouldn't let go. I tried talking to him about it again a few weeks later. We were at a diner splitting a plate of fries, the air thick with grease and the hum of other people's conversations. "Jake," I said, pushing a fry around in a puddle of ketchup, "can we talk about, the stuff you're watching?" He sighed, loud and dramatic, like I'd asked him to solve world hunger. "Liv, I told you it's not a big deal. Why are you making it one?" "Because it feels like a big deal to me," I said, my voice steady despite the heat creeping up my neck. "It's not just that you're looking at it. It's how much. It's the way you hide it." "I'm not hiding anything," he snapped, loud enough that the couple at the next table glanced over. He lowered his voice, leaning in. "You're blowing this out of proportion. It's not like I'm out there with other women. It's just a screen." "But it's not just a screen to me," I said. "It's you choosing that over us. Over me." He rolled his eyes, and that was the moment I felt it. The first real splinter of anger breaking through the hurt. "You're being dramatic," he said. "If it bothers you that much, I'll cut back, okay? Happy now?" I wasn't happy. I wasn't anything close to it. But I nodded, because what else could I do? I wanted to believe he'd try. I wanted to believe we could fix it. So I let it go, or at least I pretended to. The fries sat untouched between us, growing cold as the silence settled in. He didn't cut back. If anything, it got worse. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to an empty bed, the faint blue glow seeping under the bedroom door. I'd find him on the couch, headphones in, eyes glued to his phone, oblivious to the world. I stopped asking about it after a while. Every time I brought it up, it was the same fight. Him defensive, me pleading, both of us exhausted by the end. He'd promised to change, and for a day or two he'd be present, attentive, the Jake I'd fallen for. But then he'd slip back, the screen pulling him away like a tide I couldn't fight. I started doubting myself. Was I overreacting? Was this normal, like he said? I talked to my friend Mara about it over coffee one afternoon, spilling the whole messy story while she listened, her brow furrowed. "Liv," she said when I finished, "it's not about the stuff he's watching. It's about how it's making you feel. If he's choosing that over your relationship, that's not okay." "But he says it's not a big deal," I said, stirring my latte just to have something to do with my hands. "Maybe I'm the one who's wrong." She shook her head. "No, you're not wrong to want to feel valued. If he can't see that, that's on him, not you." Her words stayed with me, rattling around in my head as I drove home. I wanted to believe her, but part of me still clung to the hope that Jake could change, that we could go back to the way things were before the screen became a third person in our relationship. The breaking point came on a Saturday in October. I'd been out with friends, a rare night where I let myself forget the tension at home. When I got back, the apartment was dark, except for that familiar blue glow spilling from the living room. I found him there, sprawled on the couch, phone in hand, earbuds dangling. He didn't hear me come in. He didn't notice me standing there, watching as he scrolled, his face blank, lost in whatever world he'd built for himself. I don't know why that night was different. Maybe it was the way he looked so far away, like I didn't exist. Maybe it was the weight of all the months I'd spent trying to reach him, only to hit a wall every time, but something snapped. I walked over, yanked the earbuds out, and said, "We're done." He blinked up at me, startled, like he'd just woken up. "What?" "I'm done, Jake," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "I can't keep doing this. You're not here. You haven't been here for months." He sat up, fumbling to lock his phone, his face a mix of confusion and irritation. "Liv, come on. What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about," I said. "This, the phone, the videos. Whatever it is that's more important than me." "It's not more important than you," he said, standing now, his voice rising. "You're making this into something it's not. I love you, okay? I'm not going anywhere." "But I am," I said, and the words felt like a release, like letting go of a breath I'd been holding too long. I deserve more than this. He stared at me, mouth open, like he couldn't believe I'd actually said it. Then he laughed, that same sharp, nervous sound from the kitchen all those months ago. You're seriously leaving me over this? Over something every guy does? No, I said, stepping back. I'm leaving you because you don't care how it makes me feel, because you won't even try to fix it. I turned and walked to the bedroom, grabbing a duffel bag from the closet. He followed me, still talking, still trying to argue his way out of it. Liv, you're being ridiculous. Where are you even going to go? It's late. I'll figure it out, I said, shoving clothes into the bag. My hands were trembling, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. If I stopped, I'd lose the momentum, the tiny spark of courage that had finally pushed me over the edge. He stood in the doorway, watching me pack, his voice softer now, pleading. Don't do this. We can work it out. I'll stop, okay? I'll delete everything. Just stay. I zipped the bag and looked at him, really looked at him for the first time in months. He wasn't the Jake I'd fallen for anymore. Maybe he never had been. It's too late, I said. I don't trust you anymore. And then I left. I walked out into the cold October night, the duffel slung over my shoulder, my breath fogging in the air. I didn't know where I was going. Not yet. Mara's place, maybe, or a cheap motel, until I could sort things out. But as I climbed into my car and pulled away, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Relief. The weeks that followed were hard. I crashed on Mara's couch, spent too much time staring at my phone, waiting for a text that never came. Jake called a few times, left voicemails I didn't listen to. I blocked his number eventually, not because I hated him, but because I needed to let go. I found a new apartment, a tiny studio with peeling paint and a view of a brick wall. But it was mine. For the first time in years I was alone, and it was terrifying and freeing all at once. I thought about him sometimes, wondered if he'd kept his promise to stop, if he'd moved on, if he ever realized what he'd lost. But mostly, I thought about me. About the person I'd been with him, the one who'd stayed too long, who'd let herself shrink to fit his world. I didn't want to be her anymore. It took months to feel steady again. I started small, new routines, new habits, coffee shops instead of late-night fights, books instead of waiting up for someone who wasn't coming, friends who reminded me I was enough, just as I was, and slowly the ache faded, replaced by something stronger, something mine. I saw him once, about a year later, at a grocery store downtown. He was in the cereal aisle, phone in hand, scrolling while he pushed his cart. He didn't see me, and I didn't call out. I just watched him for a moment, a stranger now, and turned away. I didn't need to know what he was looking at. I didn't need to know anything about him anymore. He was an adult content addict, and I left him. And in leaving, I found myself again.